Hi guys, it's me Zim, and welcome to another half-baked video review. If you don't know what a half-baked review is, it's basically I take a video game, have no script, and review it in my way as best as possible. I talk about the bad first, then I talk about the good, then I talk about the things that are interesting, and then I will then give a recommendation depending on the situation. And the game in question today is Arcadegeddon. It is a third person looter shooter roguelike that kind of falls in the genre of some other games like that, such as what was it? Gunfire Reborn. I own both of those, one on Steam. I own Arcadegeddon on the Epic Game Store because that's where it first came from. And I'm going to talk about the bad first because I like giving the good options at the end so to give you a good feeling like, oh, okay, then so this game has some good things about them. So, what are the bad things about this game? Nothing much actually. Aside from the fact that there's not a lot of content at the moment, which really isn't much. It's a roguelike, so you shouldn't expect that much, especially how this is what technically an arcade game. I will get into more of that later. But content wise, it's a bit short, but not too short. It's just it has a lot going for it. It's just that it's not as in depth as most games like Gunfire Reborn and such. But that is the only minimal one. The minor one, I would have to say it would have to be the uh, what would it be? The performance? I wouldn't say performance. The game runs pretty fine. Occasional stutters, but it's not, game breaking and unplayable. I would say it would be the cosmetic shop. There is a premium shop, however, unlike most cosmetic shops that have a premium shop, the store is actually pretty reasonable. Paying $5 for 1,000 of those purple coins that you see at the top right, that can get you a premium bundle. So paying $5 can either get you one of the most expensive or one of the cheapest bundles on one-time purchase. And once you have it permanently. And through some later research, I found out that if you were to buy a bundle, the cosmetic shop that is free that you pay with tickets, which is the in-game currency, starts to cycle over different colors of that specific bundle. So let's say you bought a bundle and it had like a cool looking headpiece and a cool clothing piece, like the one that I have, which is called the Lo-Fi set. It, if you're lucky, which is based off RNG of the shop, you can get different colors for the outfit that you're wearing from that said bundle. So even then, you don't have to pay more money for colors. It's literally just you buy the bundle and then you get more colors later on down the line. I've, and it's actually pretty cool that it does that. But then again, that's probably the only major gripe that I would technically have is the cosmetic shop. It's not technically major. It's more of a major minor thing. It's not that bad, and it's not meant to like, circumvent money. It doesn't even have a battle pass. It's literally just the cosmetic shop that you can purchase if you want to. There's nothing bad about it. So that's the only issues that I have. I have a lot of positives for this game, to be fairly honest. And the first one of the positives is, well, obviously the cosmetics. The cosmetics are abundant. Aside from the premium stuff, they're extremely abundant. There are plenty of head, face, um, facial hair, ear hair, top, bottom, gauntlet cosmetics that all have their own specific colors that you can buy in the in-game shop, and some of the cosmetics that are even in the loadout area where you select your weapons and stuff. They're not even in that loadout area. You have to actually go to the ghillie shop to buy the cosmetics there, and you can get more colors for them too, which is how that functions and actually really cool. So I thought that was actually really good that the cosmetics are not 100% behind a paywall. You can get a lot of cool stuff just for playing the game, which is really cool. And not to mention that these cosmetics, aside from them being like randomly tiered, you can get some legendary ones for like a pretty low pretty decent price if you play the game for a couple hours. I've played the game a lot and I've gotten a fair share of legendary gear, aside from the stuff that you saw before, which was for me being a supporter, which is cool. And not to mention, the cosmetics also have skins for weapons, so your guns can look a lot different compared to what they look like to mine. When you first start off, they might look very bland, but you can see that most of my weapons look completely different to what they're actually shown on the portrait in the bottom right for the loadout feed, which is actually kind of cool. Actually kind of cool. They have skins that you can unlock from leveling the weapon up and from buying them in the shop. Which is another thing I'll also mention: the weapon loadout and level up system. This is one of the most interesting weapon systems I've ever seen in a roguelike. Usually in a roguelike you would pick up a weapon, use it for a little bit with its attributes and stuff, and then you would just toss it out later when you find something better, or upgrade it to keep it for a little longer. In this game that's different. Instead, you can upgrade it via either in game, but it's only a one time thing. Once you upgrade it once, it's not going to keep that for next time you play. But if you were to level it up, because there's a leveling up system, you can increase its power, its mag size, its ammo capacity, and stuff like that, and make the weapon pretty powerful. For example, the starting pistol that I'm carrying right now, that's not the actual starting pistol. That's the handgun in the milligrade weapon manufacturer. That's also another thing that I like. They have weapon manufacturers. I'll get into that in a second. But the Outlaw is a pistol with the milligrade weapon manufacturer, and it's basically like a Desert Eagle. It's good for headshots, long range, has a decent fire rate, and it's overall powerful. It has no elements, and you have to reload it, but it's not. But it's high power. It's pretty damn deadly. And as you can see, it's purple, and I started it off as purple. That's because I leveled it up all the way to level 4, if that's the correct level number. Yeah, level 4. No, it's level 6. It's, what happens is how the level system works is every weapon starts off at level 1, meaning that's a weapon you just pick up out on the field. You don't start off with all these weapons in a loadout unless you play an offline mode, which is a key that this game does have. You have to find the weapon and then level it up. Once it hits level 2, it will go all the way. It'll be able to be equipped in your loadouts in the loadout screen back at Gilly's shop. And once it hits level 2, you can then level it up some more. Level 3 will turn it green. Level 4 will turn it blue. Level 5 will turn it purple. And then level 6 will turn it legendary. And then I've also found out that there's another level, level 7, which is like mythical tier, which is red, and I obviously believe that that's going to make it like really powerful, but at the same time, I haven't gotten to that point yet. But yeah, you can level up these weapons, and they keep their level too when you go into the loadout system. So when you go select that weapon, you can reselect it, and then all of a sudden it will turn into that level you leveled it up to. And also, it will also be able to change mid game. So if you level the weapon up to level 4, which is blue tier, you'll be able to your character will automatically swap the weapon for a second, and then it'll be blue instead of green, which is actually really cool because that means its power just increased immediately, and you can just use it continuously. And as you may know, the XP like gains a lot higher and higher the more the levels go through. Not to mention, if you're not a fan of having your weapons be that specific level every time you find them, you can always find them out in the field at different levels. And also, you can also degrade the weapons level if you want to challenge yourself too. And that's another thing, the loadout system. You get to take whatever weapon you want with you out in the field, so you can level it up, or you can test the water, see what build works for you, because you can customize a build. Like, you can have all sorts of different weapons equipped with you, except for unique weapons that make your build even more overpowered or interesting. See how long you get into the game, how much score you can get. It it's actually fairly interesting that they did it this way because of the weapon manufacturers. As I mentioned before, I mentioned milligrade. Milligrade is basically, as I said, military grade weaponry. Highly powerful, good damage, good fire rate, and such. They just don't have an element, and they need to be reloaded like every other weapon, except for another manufacturer that I'll get to. Those weapons are very powerful. They're really good if you want the baseline weapon that does a lot of damage, and they have a good roster: a pistol, SMG, shotgun, sniper rifle, explosive weapon, and an assault rifle. And the other manufacturers are completely different in their special way. There is the nanotech, which basically is weapons that can heat seek onto their targets. Once you paint a target with your ADS or your aiming mode, which this game is a third-person shooter, so I had to say aiming mode. Once you aim at an enemy, it will lock onto that target, and no matter where you shoot, those rounds will immediately target that enemy, and they will keep going until the enemy is dead. As for the let's see, as for the other manufacturers, there is the Inferno weapons, which basically are the what was they? Oh yeah, they're the weapon manufacturer that have heat-based weaponry, and they don't need to be reloaded. They have to be cooled down. All the weapons are set on a cooldown, so once it overheats, you gotta wait for it to cool down. But other than that, you can fire infinitely until you run out of ammo, and that applies to the grenade launcher. Not the grenade launcher, the rocket launcher that they have. Then you have the ice weaponry, which is a weapon that needs to be reloaded, but they freeze enemies with a couple shots upon hitting an enemy. So once you hit them a few times with the ice weaponry, they will freeze automatically. And as for the other manufacturers, there are the explosive grade weaponry, which are basically weapons that are just explosive damage. You get an explosive assault rifle, explosive, highly explosive cluster rocket launcher. You then have a grenade launcher and a few other explosive weapons. They're basically just it's the Torg of freaking Arcadegeddon. It's literally just the explosive weapons from Borderlands, and they're actually really good. I actually recommend using those if you want some good crowd control. Then you have the weapon manufacturer that focuses mainly on acid, which is a new manufacturer that got released with a previous update that was released in August. It is obviously they produce acid. They can create acid pools, and you can literally do acid damage to enemies. Then you have the electric weapons. They do electricity damage. They can stun enemies, and also they have a pretty good roster of weapons too: electric shotgun, grenade launcher, sniper rifle, and such. And I believe that's about it. Aside from the starter weapons, which is the pistol, the fully automatic light gun pistol, and the that has infinite ammo, and the slugger baseball bat, which was named the I believe the executioner now, or the enforcer. Yeah, it's been renamed to the enforcer, which is funny. But also there are special weapons, and the unique weapons are unique. They cannot be reloaded, and by reloaded I mean they cannot have their ammunition refilled, but they can do a lot of damage and cause a lot of destruction within use. For example, there's a buzzsaw launcher that has buzzsaw blades bouncing across the walls that ricochet. You have a plasma gun that kills enemies when they're like one or two hits, and it just vaporizes anything it sees, plus it's fully automatic. A rail gun that's an instant kill regardless of what level or what rank the enemy is. You have a healing gun, a shield repair gun, a minigun, and a rocket pod launcher that's fully automatic, and a dig dug gun. And if you've played dig dug, you know what that means. But if not, shoot the pin, hit him right on target, and watch him inflate. And that's the most interesting things that the game has for weapons. Aside from that, there's also a giant sword you can get that's really powerful, and it's practically a one-hit kill depending on what enemies you hit, and also has a secondary fire which it slams to the ground, which causes a shockwave that can kill multiple enemies at once. And as you're seeing from the gameplay, there's also a score system. Depending on what you do in the game, brings up score, and the higher your score is, the higher in the leaderboards you get, and the higher in the leaderboards you get, the more tickets you get. So for example, if you have like a pretty high score, you can get a ton of tickets, so you can buy some more cosmetics, and then also buy some other things as well if you so please. Aside from that, there is the enemy variety. The enemy variety in the game back when it first released was pretty lackluster at first because there weren't a lot of enemies. There were literally just the grunts that you saw with guns, and that was basically it. They did was shoot, 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 and then occasionally see the suiciders, and that was it. There was no other enemy types in the game. Now that the game has gotten to a 1.0 release and is still getting updates, they added a lot more weapon enemies and a new boss. For example, the those weird zombie-looking guys that you saw me get chased by. Yeah, that's a new enemy as well. You saw me fight that. They're elemental as well. They also have new objectives in the game as well. And the demons that you saw me fought that were shooting digital demon fireballs, those are new as well. And they also have this new wave-based mode that comes up every once in a while when you're doing an adventure run that also has a separate mode itself. And it actually is really dang cool, to be fair, because it literally is just another thing to spice up the gameplay. And with the new enemy types, it makes it even more exciting. That, and also depending on the difficulty level, which increases the more you go through a specific event in the game, enemies change. They start doing a lot more damage. They're a lot more abundant. They start getting special buffs like being having armor, so you need to burn it off or burn it with acid. You can they'll have shields which you need to destroy with electric weapons. And they'll have all sorts of other things that'll buff them to make them a little more difficult instead of just being damage hoses. And it's actually kind of freaking cool that they did this. And the wave-based mode can also give you some high risk, high reward materials too, because later on down the line you can get a large amount of gear just from finishing these. Aside from that, there's also bosses. Bosses. Oh, there's only four, but they're all really unique and they all have their own move set. I'm not gonna spoil much of the bosses. I believe you saw one recently, which was the Demon Lord. He summons enemies and he can do a force push. And if you were to fight him after you fight your first boss, he has a second phase, which makes it so that if he were to take damage in his invulnerability state, he'll get health back, which is pretty aggravating to some, but pretty interesting to others. It spices up the fight. And another thing that I've noticed as well, that the game also has very little bugs. There are literally not even a lot of bugs in this game. Even when it first released, the bug amount was like very minimal. Like it was to the point where I played the entire game like, wow, this is a really well polished product, and I don't even see any bugs like at all in the game. And the only time I saw a bug was when an enemy got stuck in a wall, but I managed to kill him before anything bad happened. And the occasional weapon glitch where the weapons won't have the correct skins on, but all you need to do is swap the weapon and such. But there's also another glitch in the game that is also rare where you can't buy anything in the shop even if you have the tickets. But that can be rectified if you just, well, reload the game, which doesn't take long if you have an SSD or if you're playing on a console. But aside from that, a few other things that I've also think that's awesome is the fact that aside from this game not having like major in your face microtransactions, this game also is just a hell of a lot of fun. Like I'm talking about literally this game is just like an arcade game. This is literally in the name, Arcadegeddon. It's an arcade game. It doesn't have this overarching story that you can get invested in. No lore, none of that. It's just you, the enemies, your guns, and you just shoot them. It's basically if you took Borderlands, took the fun part about Borderlands, which is the shooting, the weapons, and the abilities and the over the top stuff you can do, and just turn it into a roguelike and throw the story out the window. That's what this game basically is. This game does have a story, but it's not that in depth. It's more of just something that you can just invest your time in for a little bit just so you can see what it's like and stuff. This this game is so much fun, especially considering the fact that it's meant to just be just a fun, turn your brain off and just run around and kill stuff kind of game. It's not your overarching like looter shooter like freaking Outriders where you have to invest your time into an 8-hour story in a game with lackluster combat and has no variety after like a certain point in the campaign. It's literally just you run around, shoot things. There's no need for a story. You don't even need one at this moment. Just have fun. And that's what games are supposed to be about. You're supposed to have fun. You're not supposed to have all this bloat in it that don't make it like a game. Just have fun and enjoy yourself. That's what this game is technically supposed to be, and that's what I like about it. I mean, you can already see that this game is hosting one of those because of the scoring system. Like you see the score at the top right of the screen all the entire time, and you get scored depending on what you do: sliding kills, kills with multi kills, elite kills, boss kills, opening chests, picking up loot. What was it? Doing like multi kills with specific weapons, melee kills, critical hit kills, uh, kills while rolling into an enemy, kills with special abilities, and stuff like that. It's that's how you're supposed to bring your score up, and then once you get your score really high, you get a lot of tickets, and then which with all that those tickets, you can buy some pretty cool cosmetics, and it makes the game overall fun. It can get pretty like samey after a while. It can be a bit monotonous and or just not fun at times, and that's mostly because if you don't know what you're doing or if you get bored easily, it can get repetitive. But it depends on how you think about it. For me, this is a good turn your brain off game, a game where you can just have fun and be silly and just like murder a bunch of things just for the fun of it and buy stuff to make you look cool. And that's what this game's all about. There's no battle pass, no overarching microtransactions that cost you an arm and a leg just for like two things, and there's no like hidden paywall behind the game. It's literally just play the game, have fun, and not to mention the game's price. Would you believe that this game is only $15? $15. This game is has all this content in it, and it has a overall system that makes the game a lot of fun, and it's only $15. And that was the exact same price when it was in early access. It did not change whatsoever. The game was $15 off rip, and it is the most amazing freaking fun I've ever had in a shooter. Plus, the character customization is actually really cool. It's the art style has a very good aesthetic that makes you go, this art style is actually fairly pretty and has its own like flair to it. Now they did recently add like more humanoid character faces. I have no idea why they added that in. I think it's because people kind of just want to have a humanoid character, but in my opinion, that kind of detracts the art style of the game. It makes the game look artificial if you have like humanoid skins in it. But to each their own. It's their game. They do what they want, and I've had a lot of fun playing this game solely because of the fact that it's just a lot of dumb fun. That's what games are missing nowadays. There's not a lot of games out there that are being made by AAA developers or indie game developers where it's supposed to be just dumb fun. It's it's always got to be about it's got to have a good story. It's got to have these mechanics, this, that, and the other. But people just want a fun game, and if you have a good story, yeah, that's great. It's that having that in there is a bonus because the story shouldn't differentiate a game's fun value. It should be there on the side. Sure, yeah, if it's a complete story based game, I get that. But if it's a game that has like all sorts of interesting systems that kind of fall flat, even with the story being there, it kind of ruins the value of the game. I've played a few games that are like that. As I said, Outriders is one of them. Literally, you have all these cool ideas of being an overpowered character, but with the gameplay designs that they chose and the difficulty curve that they decided to slap onto the game, it makes the game almost impossible to play. And the fact that they slapped a freaking almost 8 hour long, or maybe 8 hours plus long story behind it that kind of sort of has no freaking value and is rather boring to a degree. It just detracts from the fun, especially considering the fact that back when Outriders first released, there was no skip button, and even if there was, the game took forever to load anyway. So skipping the cutscenes felt like you didn't do anything. But I can understand uh, a lot of people not liking this game. Even though I gave it a lot of praise because it's a roguelike with not a lot of value behind it, but there is a lot. There's a lot. There's a lot of replay value in it, especially with some other systems that I haven't mentioned, like the nanotech freaking hacks that you could put in the game, that you can pick up on the field that like increase your health, damage with specific guns, elements, and such like that. There's a lot of stuff in this game that literally just add to the fun factor. And as I said, not a lot of games give you a lot of fun. Now, there's only one thing that is criminally wrong with this game, and is that it's pretty underrated and not a lot of people know about it. Mostly due to the fact that the game released on the Epic Game Store first, which makes sense. This was during the time when Epic decided to release their whole thing where they're giving creators more money than they should compared to Steam. Then, after a while, the developers decided to add it to consoles, Xbox, PlayStation. I believe the Switch might be next, but I'm not too sure. I have to look into that. And the Steam version was recently released with a new update with the wave mode and all sorts of stuff. So it added a lot of things to the game that made it accessible to others and such. And since the game is accessible to others and it's now on multiple platforms, it's getting some more attention. Granted, the attention is pretty small, but it's in a good way. And the game's got mostly positive reviews on Steam, with very positive reviews coming in. Because, to be fairly honest, out of all the roguelikes out in the world, I've played a good fair of them. I've even played the good ones. Played a little bit of Dead Cells at one point in my life. It was a pretty decent game. Didn't play a lot of it, but I played a good amount. I've played Getsufumaden Undying Moon. That's a really good game similar to Dead Cells, but with the Getsufumaden IP from Konami. I've played Risk of Rain 1 and 2. Love those games to death, especially with the new DLC for Risk of Rain 2. Those games are really freaking fun. But out of all of the roguelikes that I've played the most of, I keep coming back to Arcadegeddon because it's just dumb fun. You don't have to worry about like a timer or having to get through a campaign to finish the story. You don't have to worry about like RNG. You can just run, gun, and have some fun. That's what this game's all about. And I personally, in my opinion, I personally recommend it. If you guys ever get like 15 schmuckaroos and you want a good game to kill some time and you're tired of playing Killing Floor and stuff like that, other games that can kill time, then just grab Arcadegeddon. It's a really fun game and it deserves your time. But that's just my opinion. It's up to you to try it out and to give it a go. Plus, this is a good game for me to take a break with, considering the fact I've been playing Lies of P and recently a couple of other games that I've recently purchased that were in early access are now getting out of early access. And at the time of this review, a few other games are releasing probably this year, at the end of this year, that are probably going to change after a while. Like they're going to get completely out of early access, and that's what's really fun. This game can hold you over for a little while just for fun until like one of your games gets completely finished or until you find something new to play. But aside from that, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. It was pretty half-baked, as I said before. That's what these reviews are named. And I'll see you guys in the next video. It'll probably be the Devil May Cry video that I have on file, or maybe some other game that I was playing before. Such as a small indie game that I've played called Gearbits. It's literally just if Earth Defense Force and Armored Core mixed together and had a child. That's what Gearbits is. It's a fun little indie game, and I recently got an update for a wave-based mode, which is cute. So, I'll see you guys next time. Hope you guys enjoyed. And yeah, that was my half baked review on Arcadegeddon. See you guys next time.